Welcome everyone, Costin here on Serious Gaming with the discussion on the 1.50 patch for Mass Effect Andromeda. I know I'm late to this party, but there are things I do want to talk about here. So there's a bunch of multiplayer balance changes, stability changes, latency, all that kind of stuff. But the really significant changes are for single player. But this is just really a first step for Bioware. You know, the things they've done so far are fairly minor, but they do have some, a significant difference. For instance, the fact that they added eye shaders for characters, all the characters. Now that does have a difference, as well as some changes in the way characters look, the way certain sequences play out. Obviously, the big one is with the Addison dialogue change, and you can see the difference between what was and what is at the moment.
All right, what happened?
To who?
To whom? And your goddamn father. Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything. And right now, I just want to know what happened with Alec. Not how he died. I pulled those logs. What happened with Pathfinder?
In the moment, it saved my life. But it seems my father meant for me to get the role eventually.
It isn't hereditary. If we wanted an inbred monarchy, we could have left half our gene stock back home. Not home. The Milky Way. This is home. This mess. We don't have a lot of options, Ryder. Maybe you'll prove your father right. After 14 months of failed colonization, forgive me if I don't hold my breath.
You called my father Alec. No one does that.
A lot of us joined the initiative because of his vision. What he shared of it, anyway.
Were you friends? Or...
I'm not your new mother, if that's what you're asking. Or his friend. He hated that I didn't use his title. But no one's a Pathfinder until they've path-found something. Much like a colonial director without colonies. All right, what happened?
To who?
To whom? And your goddamn father. Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything. And right now, I just want to know what happened with Alec.
In the moment, it saved my life. But it seems my father meant for me to get the role eventually.
It isn't hereditary. If we wanted an inbred monarchy, we could have left half our gene stock back home. Not home. The Milky Way. This is home. This mess. We don't have a lot of options, Ryder. Maybe you'll prove your father right. After 14 months of failed colonization, forgive me if I don't hold my breath.
You called my father Alec. No one does that.
A lot of us joined the initiative because of his vision. What he shared of it, anyway.
Were you friends? Or...
I'm not your new mother, if that's what you're asking. Or his friend. He hated that I didn't use his title. But no one's a Pathfinder until they've path-found something. Much like a colonial director without colonies.
Excuse me, Director Addison.
Ryder?
It's Pathfinder.
Ryder, we're starving here. If we don't get a foundation of outposts to feed the initiative, we might as well be 600 years dead. Alec promised a lot. None of it panned out. That's what you're up against. Why people won't trust you. Why I don't trust you. Prove me wrong.
So now that's a fairly significant change, and you will notice, by the way, in that dialogue that they've added keybinds for your dialogue options. Or rather, they show you which keybinds are now for your dialogue options. You can customize it, but it's not perfect. There's a bunch of issues in terms of customizing your keys, but there were already keys for your dialogue options. It's just we didn't know. So apparently they went with a numpad solution for mouse and keyboard. And the problem is, in terms of trying to change your keys, is that at the moment, at the very least, it won't register the change in terms of, the numbers or the keys that show up in the dialogue wheel, even though your keys are actually changed. On top of that, you may notice that there's no depth of field in the conversation there. That's because they have given players the option of disabling motion blur and depth of field. Very welcome. I kind of wish they would do something like that for Dragon Age Inquisition, but very, very much welcome for the game. Though, there are certain scenes where it's clear that they designed those with the idea that people would be using depth of field. In particular, the final battles, some of the final battles on Meridian is an example. The aerial battles, you can really see that the background doesn't look all that good. But, you know, that's one detail. In most dialogue sequences, in most conversations, most cinematics, it is a very big difference. And, you know, I'm very glad that we can disable depth of field, we can disable motion blur. I'm not a fan of either of these effects. I mean, I have no issue with depth of field if it's done well. I do have a lot of issues with motion blur. I think that effect is bad. But with the problem with depth of field in most games is that the way it's used in cinematics or in dialogues is like, it's just, you know, it's glaringly obvious, whereas the idea of depth of field as an effect is really just to focus someone's attention on something, you know, on something within a scene. But that's not how it actually plays out in most of the games that I've played, in particular in games like this, where they're not really necessarily going scene by scene. I'm guessing they're using an algorithm with depth of field rather than handcrafting it to, you know, to you know, what things will be focused on and what things will be blurred out, all that. So, and you know, I'm not a fan of depth of field in general, because guess what? Your eyes ultimately have, you know, do that. You know, your eyes focus on certain things, and I kind of feel that in a video game in particular, it's not really a useful effect. So I'm glad that they added that option. No description for a lot of the game options in the options menu. And there's also the mouse bug with the mouse cursor still remains. There's also now a bug where if you Alt-Tab, the game minimizes, and you have to press Alt-Enter to get it full screen again. You know, some minor issues remain. Your inventory size is doubled. And, you know, one big change for those that do care about, say, exploring the galaxy, though that's mostly pointless because they only give you a handful of resources and you really probably shouldn't bother with it in the first place. But one of the big positives is that now, although when you go from system to system, you still have a loading screen, but you had that in previous Mass Effect games. But when you're going from a planet to planet or object to object in a system, you no longer have to wait for that sequence, you know, the flight sequence to go through. You can skip it, and that's very much a welcome change. So the way I feel about it is that it's a nice first step, but there's a lot more they have to do. Character creator would be a very, very big improvement, and you know, it's something that they're going to work on, something that they've said they're going to work on. So I'm looking forward to that. I still feel that I feel that there's balance changes that they can bring to multiplayer, a lot of balance changes and fixes actually for multiplayer. There's plenty of crashes, there's plenty of lag. There's a lot to fix in multiplayer, and they should fix it. But overall, it's a nice first step. You know, I'm personally gonna wait until they, you know, fix as much as they can fix. You know, until they say basically that they're done. Until they fix the lip syncing, facial animations in general, and there's a lot of issues. You know, it's not just the lip sync issue; it's a facial animation issue in general. the character creator, and then I'll see, I'll play Mass Effect Andromeda again on New Game Plus to see how the full game is with how it was supposed to be. Now I do feel that the core issues of the game, the core problems of Mass Effect Andromeda are not going to go away. The core problem of Mass Effect Andromeda in the single player is the fact that the story in itself is not all that great. It would require a significant rewrite of the story to actually fix the game fully. But you know what, if they can improve lip syncing, if they can improve facial animations, if they can fix the bugs, the glitches, all that, quality of life changes, all that kind of stuff, then that will make the game far more enjoyable. And that will make the game a lot better, a lot more tolerable. In a way, people have said that what Mass Effect Andromeda came out was basically an early access version of the full game. And that's true at the end of the day. There's a lot, it was unfinished in a lot of areas. And it's disappointing to see a game from Bioware to be in such a state. In particular after they did something like Dragon Age Inquisition. Dragon Age Inquisition, believe it or not, I feel had much better lip syncing, facial animations, or at least it wasn't that obvious. And they're using the same engine. You would expect improvement from one game to another, not to downgrade. Then yet, in terms of character animations, lip syncing, and all that, in many issues we got the downgrade. Obviously we got the massive upgrade in terms of the combat system, but there's issues. Costin here on Cirrus Gaming signing out. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.